This conflict was imposed on us. The escalation was a decision made by Hamas. You know, Gil Galanos mentioned the fact that he served in the military. You know, I thought about it today as I was thinking about what I'm going to say about my military training. I also served in the infantry in the Nachal Brigade. And I remember very vividly that as a young recruit, it was very strange to me that everything in the military, until the very last detail, had a procedure. There was a special, we call it SOP. There was a special way, for example, how to tie your shoelaces. There was a special way, and only one way, how to put on your belt, or what to do with your ID, or thousands of little details. Every little thing had a procedure. And when you come to think of it, why is that? What's behind it is a full philosophy that we all share in Western civilization. That when you go to battle, when you face your enemy, the most important thing is the preservation of life. And that's why you have to tie your shoelaces in a special way that thousands of soldiers before you did. Because in the most critical moment, that shoelace can be the difference between life and death. So the preservation of life is the pillar, is the core of what we do even in the military. Now, when you go to war and you're facing an enemy that, like you, too, values life, you could say that war is ugly, war is messy, war is chaotic, but so to speak, it's a fair game. But you go to war, and instead of facing an enemy that values life and interested in the preservation of the lives of his own people, you face an enemy that does not only not care about his own life, but actually wants to die and to take you with him in the process. This is an onslaught on Israeli civilian society, unprecedented. Very few nations in history had to endure 2,000 missiles in 2 weeks, in less than 2 weeks. 2,000 missiles, mid-range, long-range, that put 70% of Israel's population at risk. 2,000 rockets that are meant to kill innocent people. No country in the world would accept this. No country in the world would tolerate this situation. So my friends, the challenge is huge. It's perhaps unprecedented in the sense that we're facing an enemy that sadly and tragically does not value life. Former President Bill Clinton 2 days ago gave an interview to Indian television. He was asked about the situation in Gaza, and what he said was so true. He said, this has been Hamas's strategy for many years, to constantly, repeatedly perpetuate the suffering of their own people because they believe it puts Israel in a tough position vis-a-vis the Western world. Well, my friends, you are here tonight to prove those Islamists, those radicals, that they are dead wrong. This is perhaps the most transparent military operation in recent history. As Senator Schumer correctly described, we take the time, we take the energy, we take the resources at the expense of achieving some military operational goals to provide Gazans with early warning. Not only that, during the entire operation, my friends, the border crossing between Gaza and Israel was open. There is no example set in history of a nation providing aid to its enemy in time of war. 100 trucks every day enter Gaza with gas and food and medicine. This is how we conduct our affairs because we value life. We're not set out to destroy the 1.8 million people that live in Gaza. We're set out to destroy the terrorist infrastructure that was built by the Palestinians, by Hamas. I want you to know that since 2007, early 2007, Hamas built a wide network of tunnels, hundreds of tunnels. Some of them are 60 feet underground. Those tunnels are not just being used to smuggle arms from the Sinai. They also penetrate under Israeli territory with the purpose of sending squads of terrorists into Israel. They pop out near an Israeli kibbutz or an Israeli moshav, trying to assault innocent people. Thank God we managed to avert all the attempts so far. Imagine how much money they spent on building those tunnels. Imagine how much energy was spent on building those tunnels. What expertise is needed to build those tunnels? Hundreds of tons of concrete were poured into those tunnels. Concrete that could have used the Gazans elsewhere. I'd like to remind you tonight that in the summer of 2005, Israel did what no one expected it to do. We fulfilled the Palestinian territorial fantasy. We got out of Gaza until the last square inch. We demolished 18 thriving Jewish communities in Gaza. We told the Palestinians, here, it's all yours. You can turn it into the Singapore of the Middle East. But instead of using the concrete to build new hotels, new restaurants, new factories, create jobs, build a university, for example, Hamas turned Gaza into one huge ammunition depot. 12,000 rockets, 12,000 missiles. I want you to understand what it means. I want you to think for a second for yourselves, what would happen in any city in the Western world if only one missile was launched against that city? Just think about it. People talk about restraint. We're being asked to respond with restraint. You know, when the flotilla occurred and some well-meaning Westerners joined the pro-Palestinian forces on board of those boats on the flotilla, I wrote an article in one of the newspapers, and I urged all those great heroes that chant Free Palestine in the name of human rights, defending a terrorist organization that is committing a double crime against Israel and against its own people. I urged them to come and spend a weekend in Gaza as a gay activist. As a famous writer who writes about civil rights and criticizes Israel for committing war crimes. Spend one weekend as an open-minded, opinionated activist from any Western country in Gaza. We have to understand the reality of what we're facing. But I have to tell you, tonight, I'm humbled by this show of support. This is the second event today. There was another event in Times Square earlier today where I received reports was attended by 3,500 people. And tonight we have here nearly 1,000. I want you to know something. This event tonight is part of a long-standing history of an unbreakable bond between this great community of the city of New York and the state of Israel. Every year we celebrate Israel on the first Sunday of the month of June. It's the world's largest event of support for the state of Israel. It's a celebration of who we are. Tonight, despite of the somber nature of this event, and despite of the fact that we experienced the worst day thus far in this Operation Protective Edge, I want you to know that as far as we're concerned, tonight is a celebration of Israeli perseverance, Israeli resilience, and Israeli determination. People ask me, what can we do? There's a very simple answer. There are many ways to show your support for Israel in time of crisis. You can go physically to Israel. And I know that there was a solidarity mission here from New York, the Conference of Presidents. There was a JFNA mission in Israel when the operation started. But if you can't go, there are many other ways to help us, because the war is not just on the ground. The war is waged in social networks. The war is waged on television screens, in newspapers, opinion pages, news sections. There is a way for you to purchase products made in Israel from here. Please do that. Show the Israelis that you care, that you engage, that you take an active role in helping our economy in this very difficult time. We talk a lot about the damage in life, damage in property, but I want you to know that the damage that was inflicted on Israel's economy with the paralysis, 2 weeks of paralysis. Businesses are on the verge of going under. Tourism is suffering a great deal. Trade is suffering a great deal. This is the time for all of us to show support by engaging with Israel. If you can't go there physically, do it online. Made in Israel is the ultimate answer to our enemies and our detractors. Thank you so much for being here. Let me just conclude by saying to all of you, tonight we prove our enemies our strength. Am Yisrael Chai.
Israel, many say, should ignore these rockets that terrorize its civilians and just sit down and talk. I would ask them, talk with who? Talk with who? An enemy, Hamas, that has sworn to Israel's destruction, that has refused to recognize any state of Israel? Hamas is way beyond arguing against settlements or what the border should be. They do not want Israel to exist. And Israel has to defend itself. And it is amazing, ladies and gentlemen, how humanely Israel tries to behave under these difficult circumstances. Do you know of any other nation, when faced with rockets that are ready to be launched into its territory, that sends leaflets and says, please evacuate? Any other country that tries to reach cell phones of people who live near where Hamas has stored these rockets and say, please leave? The fact that Hamas is manipulating the situation and using its people as human shields to cause this situation. Only in the United States and in Israel are people standing up for the truth, are people standing up for the right of Israel to exist. And that is why we are here tonight. Our voices must be heard. The double standard that has been used so readily and so quickly must be vanquished. And we have learned through our history, when we are quiet, we never succeed. Our voices must be raised. I was asked by someone what I would say to the people who were protesting outside the Israeli embassy on Friday. I said, here's what I'd say to the people who were protesting outside the embassy. You're knocking on the wrong door. If you want peace, go protest Hamas. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out during this very, very difficult time in the Middle East. But one thing we know, if we continue to raise our voices and speak the truth, the righteousness of what Israel is doing to defend itself will be heard, and Israel will once again, against vitriol and hatred, survive. Thank you.
My message to New Yorkers tonight is that we do have a special place in this battle. We always had. So many of us grew up going to marches for Israel and to make sure that the New York voice would always be heard loud and clear. I believe we are at a critical moment. Public opinion will matter in this fight, and too many people are taking liberty with Israel's democracy, and we as elected officials, as American Jews, and as people of this city, now is the time for us to raise our voices and say enough is enough. Let's have this debate right here in New York City. So many people I know in this room, if another country or another people were suffering the missiles and the attacks, we would be in that room tonight. We would be supporting another people's right to exist. That has always been what our city's about. A city that speaks 170 different languages from 200 countries, we are the UN, and we have always demanded democracy and peace, and we've always held governments to a very high standard. But I will tell you tonight, we all understand that this one, for some reason, is not easy. the loss of life today, the debate that's happening, we have to stand up. As Congressman Engel knows, swastikas were found in Riverdale, in other places around the city, at the Bronx Zoo. This fight is happening right now in our city, and we must act and we must speak out. The world is watching what the New York Jewish community is going to say and do, and how we are going to influence the debate in our city. Now is the time for us to organize, as we always have, in a way that speaks to the intellectual argument, the passionate argument, the religious argument. Let us not lose the public debate while the fighting is going on, the life and death fight in Israel. I hope that we can all bring about that fundamental change, peace in the Middle East, and the survival of Israel, as we all understand how critical that is to the United States and to the world. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm here to give you some good news. I'm here to tell you, as the ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, as someone who represents the Bronx and Westchester, you know, we hear a lot in Congress, a lot about Congress, that Congress is dysfunctional, that Congress cannot agree on anything, that members of Congress are always fighting and don't accomplish anything. Well, I'm here to tell you that they're wrong, because there is one issue that Congress agrees. I'm here to tell you that in Congress, support for Israel is strong and it's bipartisan, and that's the way it should be. It is Congress who will make sure that Israel will always have the qualitative military edge. It's that Congress who will always make sure that the Iron Dome is funded so Israeli lives can be saved. It is Congress who will make sure that Israel will continue to be the #1 U.S. aid recipient, getting more than $3 billion of American aid each and every year. And you know, there are only 22 Jewish members out of 435 members of Congress. So we have lots and lots of friends from areas where you couldn't rub two Jews together in their district. They're voting for Israel because they know a vote for Israel is a vote for America. And they know that American values are Israeli values. They know that America values life, Israel values life. They know that America stands for what's right, and so does Israel. And let us never forget that. What other nation would drop leaflets and make speeches on loudspeakers to tell a civilian population to get out because the place is going to be bombed? The Arabs don't do it, Israel does it. And let's remember, and let's tell all our friends, this is not really a fight between Israel and the Palestinians. It's a fight between Israel and a terrorist organization. And Hamas is a terrorist organization, and all of us here, as proud residents of New York City, remember September 11th, 2001. We know what terrorism is, but we cannot only begin to understand what the people of Israel have to live with as far as terrorism goes, year in and year out, day in and day out. No other country would tolerate missiles coming in, killing its citizens, harming its citizens, threatening its citizens, each and every day, each and every week, each and every month. If we had missiles flying in over the border from Canada or Mexico, do you think that we would sit tight? No, we wouldn't, and neither will Israel. So I'm here again to tell you that this support will continue. And it will continue because the United States and Israel share common bounds, have common feelings, care about humanity, care about people. You know, in every generation has to stand up and stay strong. Let me tell you, my friends, this is our turn. This is our chance. This is our generation to stand up and continue to tell the people of Israel that we will stand with you. We love you. We're not going to abandon you. Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live. Thank you.
As Ambassador Aharoni mentioned, a delegation of the conference was in Israel from midday Monday to late Wednesday afternoon of this past week. We visited Sderot and Ashkelon and saw firsthand the terrible impact the barrage of rockets is having on the people of Israel. It was painful to hear the mayor of Sderot tell us that when his 2-year-old daughter sees a cloud in the sky, she thinks it's the smoke from a rocket. It was sobering to be on a bus on the Ayalon in Tel Aviv when a siren went off, but it was comforting to hear the boom above our heads as an Iron Dome missile took out a Hamas rocket. Iron Dome is nothing short of a miracle, and we heard time and time again how grateful the Israelis are, whether members of Knesset, taxi drivers, men and women in the street, how grateful they are to the government of this country for its significant role in funding Iron Dome. My first plea to you tonight and to the community at large: we must continue to be unified and to speak with one voice in support of the government and the people of Israel. Second, and this is mainly directed to the many Jewish Americans in the audience, we may each have our own views on the best course of action for the Israeli government to take, but we are not there. We are not bearing the brunt of the incessant rocket fire. We are not on the front lines in Gaza, although I am sure, as Michael said before, that everyone in this room has a relative or friend who is. So we must, in my judgment, continue to support the decisions of the government, whatever our personal views might be, and just as important, continue to urge our government to support those decisions as well. Your presence here on a beautiful Sunday night is testament to your support for the government and the people of Israel. Thank you all. Am Yisrael Chai.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support Shalom TV with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the Shalom TV website homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive on DVD with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.